Hello, this is the Game Book 28. Welcome to xXx, the game, the review. Now, before I start, xXx, of course, is just a horrible name for a game. I understand it was the name of the movie itself, which basically this game is, I think, sort of based off the story, but really, it doesn't feel like the xXx movie, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But basically, xXx is just a horrible name because we all know what the other meaning of xXx can be, which is probably the bigger meaning. Now, this is the only game that they made for xXx. They didn't make a xXx 2 with, I believe it was Ice Cube who was playing it. I'm sorry if I'm just totally incorrect on that. Of course, xXx 2 was not my favorite, and I believe they just called it X2 or something like that. Of course, it was xXx because, well, he's an assassin. He kills people, like James Bond, but a little bit different. I feel a little bit more actiony, to be honest. But still, definitely a good movie. Even if you don't like Vin Diesel, it's still a fun little action flick. Just don't expect any Oscar-nominated tears to come your way. It's basically X because his name is Xander, or they call him X, and I think having something to do with being an assassin and blah blah blah. Now, after you beat this game, you can of course unlock the race tracks, which suck. Which I'll talk about in a few seconds, or minutes, whatever. And you can unlock some cheat codes, so you can play it again with, unlimited ammo and all that stuff. I'd probably play with just unlimited ammo, which I think I will do for this review. Unlimited health, no need for that, to be honest. So let's get right into this full-blown review. I just want to get that little xXx thing out of the way. Now, there's only one mode, which is basically to start a new game, or to load a game. Of course, we can't load that game that we have there, because, of course, it's 100%, which is kind of stupid. Like, they should have a level access thing. But we will start a new game. Hold on, I'll be right back once it starts. Luckily, it's pretty quick to get into the mission. I do have to say that's one good point of this game. Now, this is probably the funnest game I've played on my channel so far. And the funnest game that I was playing with the other two Let's Plays. Don't get me wrong, that may sound pretty bad. I'm not saying the other games suck. I'm just saying, I don't know, this is nostalgic for me. It's just a fun game. It's just you go around shooting. Even if you don't like Vin Diesel, didn't like the movie xXx, xXx 2, don't like just the name xXx in general, whatever the freak your reasoning is, it's still just a fun game. Get some good guns out, right? Now, there's a wide range of enemies, but they tend to be just sort of repeated enemies within this game. There's a cat-dog thingy. I don't know, it sort of meows like a cat, barks like a dog, it looks like a cat. It's a weird. There's guys that sort of bend down, shoot you. There's guys that stand up, shoot you, and bend down. There's lots of things. There's not really any bosses in the game. The only bosses are Yorgi, which is at the end, and this one Colonel guy, which you're trying to get a key from. Sort of like that one. Except for you have to fight him, of course. Which, the Colonel is pretty hard, especially in that mission that you're fighting the Colonel in. He's going to take some health away from you, seriously. But he's not that bad. Yorgi, on the other hand, though, he is kind of bad, especially if you're going to most likely face him more than once. There's turrets in there which don't really play a factor unless you sort of just run into the turrets themselves. But, Yorgi himself is pretty bad, but as long as you sort of are pretty good with avoiding him and his bullets, and sort of, you could sometimes trick him to just run around in the one part of the room, so that you could just keep shooting him and avoiding him, and it's somewhat of cheap, but works. But I have to say that, even if you somewhat feel that this game it's kind of crappy, it's a pretty fun shooting game for the GBA. If you have a GBA and you like shooting kind of games, I would get this. It's a fun little game. You're bound to come back to it. Maybe not right after you play it. It's one of those kind of games where you might have to wait a little bit. But you'll still want to come back to it. The enemies are kind of repeated upon themselves. They just sort of change skins. But then again, there is differences between enemies. Some of them have stronger weapons, turrets come into play, fire things coming out of the ground, smoke, all sorts of things that could hurt you. Most of the missions are just taking out missiles, to be honest, and collecting little jars of poison or whatever the freak it may be. Now, there is also bike missions, which honestly suck. That's probably the horriblest part of this game. You run out of fuel too quickly, that's the main problem. And sometimes you get hit by something that's just so stupid. But luckily there's only 3 of them, and you could get, the first one's not too bad, to be honest. And it's bound not to take you too long to actually beat those missions, so. Plus, all the other missions sort of make up for that crappy bike missions. Now, within each mission, you have a little quest objectives, which is like, destroy the missile, get this formula, and then once you do that, you make your way to the exit. It's kind of nice. There's not really a lot of backtracking unless you miss something, but you could tend to just go in certain directions and kill every enemy, get what you need, and get out of there. It's a pretty fun game. I like how they do it. The environments, don't get me wrong, aren't that amazing. Some of them are sort of repeats upon themselves. Same thing with the enemies, kind of repeating upon themselves, but the weapons are fun to use. It's fun to take on enemies, and you will get challenges at times, because there is some levels where where it just ramps up so much. Now, when you get to the end of a level, there's 2 things: accuracy percentage and eliminate percentage. Of course, you have to do all the quests that actually exit the level, but they don't actually show you any of that stuff here, because that's supposed to be a part of your mission anyway. The eliminate percentage is, of course, if you eliminate every enemy. Now, turrets do not count as enemies. The only enemies that they include are the ones that are actually sort of alive. So, like the dog cat things, and the people. The turrets don't count. Of course, the laser beams and stuff like that are not actual enemies. They just hurt you. The accuracy is if you don't miss the enemy. So if I was to sort of, even if it was just one guy shooting in the face, I most likely would have had 100% on the accuracy, or at least higher. I don't believe you have to kill every enemy to get 100% on that, but to be honest, I wouldn't recommend trying to get 100% on that. It's pretty freaking hard to do. You're bound to shoot a little bit more than that, and all sorts of stuff. But I do have to say, the music isn't bad, it just feels like it's repeated. That's another sort of flaw. It feels like it's repeated. Same thing with a couple of other things. But even for the slight repetitiveness of this game, like collecting blue pass cards and all that stuff, it still is a pretty fun game, and it gets you to explore, it gets you to have fun. It's just a good game. There's some things that, of course, could be improving. You could say there's really any game, though. I would just have to say this game's good, hard fun. You could throw grenades, kill people, shoot people with a shotgun, with normal bullets, super darts, explosive darts, AK-47, and that's just one reason to get this game, AK-47. Sometimes you will run out of ammo, especially later in the game, but it's really not too hard to find ammo. And if you get this cheat, well, look at that, unlimited. So we were going to exit here, and honestly end this review. I would have to say, out of all the things that I've said about this game, even though they sound kind of bad, this is one of the funnest games I've played on here, which sounds kind of bad, to be honest, but for me it's more nostalgic than just a really, really good game, because it's not. I do admit that. But however, I would rate this game an 8.3 out of 10. It's not 9, because, well, there's just too many things wrong with it. And the 3D-ish type of graphics that they're trying to go for is not that amazing. Pretty good for the GBA, but still not that good. I would rather have crisper sort of sprites than what they did, but I still think it's a good game, a fun game, definitely worth checking out. As long as you sort of like xXx, because if you don't, I'm not really sure if you're going to like it or not. But thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed the LP, I had fun. See you guys for my next LP. Bye-bye, everybody.